comes from speaking too passionately for too long. In June of 2010, somewhere between New York and Texas on a book tour for my memoir, I woke at 4 a.m, unable to breathe. Not metaphorically, not the breathlessness of anxiety or the shortness of breath that comes from speaking too passionately for too long, which I have also done. I could not move air. My chest had become a closed room. I had esophageal cancer. The diagnosis arrived within days of the breathing difficulty. Stage 4. The oncologists, who were admirably precise people, explained that the statistics for my particular situation were not encouraging, which is the medical profession's way of telling you something that would be rude to say directly. What happened next is the subject of this account. I want to describe it precisely because it has been described imprecisely by almost everyone who has attempted it from both directions. The religious response was swift and in many cases malicious. My cancer was, according to a particular category of mind, divine punishment for a career spent arguing that God was not great. The suggestion was that I had been brought low by the very thing I had mocked, that the universe had, in its cosmic way, arranged a lesson for the man who kept denying that it had lessons to teach. I found this line of argument contemptible on multiple grounds, not least because it required its proponents to worship a God who kills people with cancer to settle intellectual arguments, which seems an excessive response to a disagreeable book review. The secularist response was, in a different way, also wrong. My friends, and I use the word in the most serious sense, not the social media sense, many of them worried in the early months that I would recant, that the approach of death, which concentrates the mind as nothing else can, would produce in me the conversion that decades of argument had not. They watched my public statements with the anxiety of people expecting a meteorological change, searching for signs of capitulation in every word I published. They were also wrong. But the precise way in which they were wrong is more interesting than the fact that they were wrong, and that is what I want to explore here. Because something did happen in those 18 months. Not conversion, not recantation, not the tidy narrative that either side wanted. Something more uncomfortable, more honest, and more intellectually significant than a verdict. I want to tell you what it was. I want to tell you with the same precision I brought to arguing against the positions of my opponents, because anything less would be a betrayal of the only principle I have ever consistently held, that the truth, whatever it turns out to be, is more important than the conclusion I entered the room hoping to reach. The one thing I could never quite refute is not what you think it is. It is not a theological argument. It is not a